has been a very important year for the ILO, as the powerful structure of the tripartite system made it possible to have the first ILO resolution on concerning decent work and the care economy that was adopted in June. What does this really mean? Well, let's discover it today with our distinguished panel representing the tripartite structure of the ILO, governments, employers, and workers. I will briefly introduce the panelists now. So we have the honor to have with us Minister Colin Jordan, who's the Minister of Labour, Social Partnership Relations and the Third Sector from Barbados. He was also the chairperson of the General Discussion Committee on Decent Work and the Care Economy, and his guidance was fundamental. With his wisdom and patience, he guided us through the resolution. But we also have Mrs. Sonia Jonahi, the Vice President of Employers Asia Group, representing the International Organization of Employers, and she was the Employer Vice Chairperson during the discussion. And we have Mrs. Lily Chang, Secretary-Treasurer of the Canadian Labour Congress, representing the International Trade Union Confederation. She was the Worker Vice Chairperson. So, we are quite excited to hear from your memories, your insights and views on how to implement this resolution on decent work and the care economy. And we really would like to have a lively discussion, conversation today. Please be aware that there is interpretation in English, French, and Spanish. There is international sign language made available and also captioning. And we very much look forward also to hearing from you from the virtual floor of the chat. Now, before starting our conversation with our dear panelists, we actually would like to hear from the Director General of the International Labour Organization, Mr. Gilbert Humbo, who was not able to attend today, but made a point to have some greetings and a message, a video message for all of us ahead of celebrating the International Day of Care and Support. Let's listen to his words.
Care work is essential to all other work. A well-functioning care economy contributes to human, social, economic, and environmental well-being. It creates jobs, supports businesses, enhances productivity, and promotes gender equality. It enables persons with disability to live dignified and autonomous lives. The care economy is expanding as populations age and demand for elderly care increases. But this work is often unrecognized, undervalued, and underpaid. Women perform the major share of care work, paid and unpaid. Many care workers, especially migrant, domestic workers, and community health workers, lack basic social and labor protections. In June this year, the International Labour Conference adopted a roadmap to advance decent work and the care economy. The roadmap seeks to boost investment in care policies and systems, protect the right of care workers, support their skill development and include them in all discussions, and support enterprise, cooperative, and community-led care initiatives. We know what we need to do. Today, on the International Day for Care and Support, let us turn our words into actions.
So we know what we have to do. I think these are very important words that put us in the right track to get all of our action together. I'm going to pass the floor now and introduce Mrs. Manuela Tomei, the Assistant Director General of Governance, Rights and Dialogue at the ILO, for her keynote speech. Many of you know Manuela. She has been a driving force behind the agenda on the care, decent work and the care economy. Over to you, Manuela.
Thank you very much, Emanuela. Your Excellencies, distinguished representatives, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It's a true pleasure to join you on this virtual event, which is marking the upcoming International Day of Care and Support on the 29th of October. This year's commemoration is particularly important because it follows the adoption by the International Labour Conference of a historic resolution concerning decent work and the care economy earlier this June. Why is this resolution historic? This is the first time that governments, employers, and workers' organizations from around the world developed a tripartite policy stance on this topic and charted a roadmap to harness the opportunities and tackle the challenges presented by the care economy. As our moderator, Emanuela Pozzan, said, today's event is about discussing how we can translate the commitments of the resolution into tangible action. And I'm very, very pleased that the three persons who played a very key role in the shaping of these resolutions are with us today. Let me share with you some key highlights of the resolution. It provides a common understanding of what the care economy is, why prompt action is needed, and how to go about it. It recognizes that action must be grounded in international labor standards and social dialogue and guided by the ILO 5R framework. The framework is about recognition, reduction, and redistribution of unpaid care, and fair reward to and representation of paid care workers. The resolution calls for integrated and coherent care policies and systems for decent work and gender equality, and calls on governments, employers, and workers' organizations to play their part. It also recognizes ILO's role and leadership in advancing this care agenda. So why does care and care work matter? Because, as the Director General just said, care work, whether paid or unpaid, is essential to people's health, well-being, and to allow all other work to happen. A well-functioning care economy contributes to a healthier and more productive workforce, creates jobs, supports businesses, and increases productivity. But what is the care economy? The care economy encompasses, as we said, both paid and unpaid care work, spans different occupations and sectors like health, education, and social and domestic work. It also recognizes that the public, private, social, and solidarity economy, as well as families, households, play a role. This shared understanding of the care economy is a major achievement, given the vast differences in social, economic, and political context in which care is delivered around the world and the heterogeneous nature of the care workforce. The ILO tripartite constituents also recognize that the way care is currently organized tends to reinforce gender and social inequalities. For instance, unpaid care work, which is performed primarily by women everywhere in the world, prevents many of them from fully participating in labor markets and society. On the 29th of October, the ILO will launch new global and regional estimates on women and men who would like to work but remain outside of the labor force due to their care responsibilities. I can tell you the figures are stunning. And this type of data is absolutely critical to shaping care policies more effectively and monitoring their impact. On the other hand, paid care workers, who in most countries are mostly women, often earn low wages endure long hours, and work in unsafe working environments, including risk of violence and harassment. Particularly at risk are migrant care workers, domestic workers, community health and care workers who often work informally. Ongoing global trends are adding to the challenge, but they also bring new opportunities. Demographic shifts, technological innovations, and climate change are all linked to care. As populations age, planning for long-term care is necessary. Climate change risks increasing the burden of care work by worsening health issues and generating displacements, while technological advances such as artificial intelligence may offer solutions, including to reduce the drudgery of care work, but also introduce new challenges. We need systemic solutions to address these challenges and seize the opportunities. And this brings me to another question, which is how can the ILO 5R framework help in this respect? The resolution clearly states that labor in the care economy is not a commodity, and that advancing decent work in the care economy is not an option. All care workers should enjoy the fundamental principles and rights at work, namely freedom of association and the effective recognition of the right to collective bargaining, equal pay for work of equal value, and protection against unsafe working conditions, discrimination, child and forced labor. Governments must take primary responsibility for care provision, but the private sector, including micro and small and medium-sized enterprises and the social and solidarity economy entities, including care cooperatives, are key partners. Together, they can ensure care services meet the needs of all. Achieving decent work in the care economy involves the implementation of well-designed care and support policies and systems. What do we mean by well-designed policies and systems? We mean policies and systems that counter inequalities in terms of who receives and who provides care, lowers the barriers preventing many women from entering, remaining, and progressing in the paid work, and improve the conditions of all care workers, and by so doing, enhancing also the quality of care services for everybody's sake. To this end, maternity protection, paternity and parental leave, childcare, long-term care, as well as quality and universal health care and education are key. The implementation of these policies, systems, and infrastructures require a significant financial effort, certainly. But such investments can bring about conspicuous returns on various levels. Simulations done through the ILO Care Policy Investment Simulator show that for every $1 invested in closing gaps in child care related leave and early childhood care and education, there would be an average increase of $3.76 in global GDP by the year 2035. It would also reduce the global gender pay gap and increase the proportion of women in paid employment, with returns in productivity, improved health and well-being at work and beyond. Ladies and gentlemen, as we approach the 30th anniversary of the Beijing Declaration and Platform of Action, I would like to remind ILO's slogan back in 1995. All women are working women. And that slogan underscored the critical and inseparable connection between unpaid care work and paid work, care and non-care paid work. The point was, and still is, that all women are working women and that their work should be recognized and valued fairly in everybody's interests. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Manuela, for your strong, powerful words. And indeed, all women are working women. And I would like to now start the panel discussion. The question I'm asking all of our panelists, Minister Colin Jordan from Barbados, Mrs. Sonia Janahi representing the employers group, and Mrs. Lily Chang representing the International Trade Unions Confederation. It's very much, you were all there, we were all there, day and night actually. And so, you know, the resolution and every single moment we spent discussing the many different aspects of the care economy. And so, in your views, what is the significance of this resolution, and what are the challenges and opportunities that are addressed in the resolution from your different perspectives, the perspectives of governments, employers, and workers? So this question is to you first, Minister Colin Jordan, and thank you for joining us from Latin America.
Thank you very much, Emanuela, and thank you very much for the opportunity to join with you in celebrating this important International Day. The resolution is significant in a number of ways, and maybe I look at it from a more or less a kind of a technical perspective. The resolution and the body of the text provides for us an accepted definition for care work. Now, there are a number of definitions, but this is a definition that has been agreed by governments, employers, and workers. And that makes it important. That tripartite agreement on what care work is, what it means, is vital if we are to make progress in the decent work agenda, making care work decent work. So we have that understanding of what we're talking about. Then the resolution itself and the body of the text sets out where we are. And that is also very important and significant because it tells us, it gives us a snapshot of the state of the care economy, where we stand in relation to various countries. Each country is able to see, to get an appreciation of where it is so that we know where we are now. And then it suggests a way forward in terms of how we can implement policies to ensure that decent work happens in an area that is critical to development. And I think that structure really shows us, really demonstrates to us how critical care work is, how critical the care economy is. And we did spend some time talking about the use of even of the term economy. And I think it's important that we recognize that this is economy. Care is fundamental to societal and to national development, and regional and international as well. So that the resolution sets out some steps that governments can take. It has ways forward agreed by the social partners. There are policies included, suggestions included, suggestions, for example, to promote gender equality, suggestions in terms of policies to improve social protection. And I'd also say that there are, in terms of opportunities, it speaks to the fact that we have to do lots of sensitization, lots of education. We have to allow our populations to recognize the importance of care work, the significance of care work. And it is also an opportunity for us to raise the profile of care work. That is one of the challenges that we face, care work being seen as some lesser work. But care work is important. And then it also allows us to address, and I think Manuela spoke to this quite eloquently in her address, but the matter of gender stereotypes in the provision of care. so that there are opportunities. This resolution is significant. Lots of opportunities for us to really get in there and work to make sure that this fundamental work of taking care of children, of taking care of the ill, taking care of persons with disabilities, taking care of those who are elderly, that this work is recognized, that it is valued, and that it is given the prominence that it ought to be given.
Thank you so much, Minister Colin Jordan. I think your words really resonated in terms of raise the profile of care work. And in fact, in the Q&A, there is already a very interesting contribution from Maritza Velasquez, who actually points out to the hard work that nurses have done during the COVID pandemic, being at the front line. And she is also asking, what are the measures and how to implement the recommendations of the resolution. And this will be answered throughout the panel, the first and second question of the panel. But I would like to ask Sonia Jonahi, to respond to the same question from the perspective of the employers.
Thank you so much for having me today, and so happy to see everyone. It's very important to note that the resolution does emphasize the central role of care work in our lives and the economy. It also recognizes that we as ILO constituents must work individually and, more importantly, together, collectively, to achieve the ILO mandate of advancing social justice and decent work in the care economy. The care economy significantly contributes to creating a healthier workforce now and definitely for the future. There's a lot of opportunities, and we know that there is a big gap when it comes to the number of people qualified and ready to take over the opportunities from now until 2030. So this in turn can increase productivity, granting businesses and economies competitive edge and enhancing overall business performance. It is also fundamental that we focus on a robust and well-supported care economy as an economic driver and direct contributor towards addressing gender equality in the labor market and society, as sadly we see there is a disproportionate when it comes to women and the work that they do and the unpaid care work and the overrepresentation of them in the profession. So in the GCC, for example, we still have a big gap of 30% only being men in this sector. And sadly, the pandemic, for some reason, escalated the gender gap even further. As employers, we're pleased to see the recognition of our role in the care economy. And this was very clearly evident throughout the work that was being done in the committee and hopefully through private enterprises and public-private partnerships. We as businesses can add value and accelerate the achievement of decent work in the care economy. We need to and we will contribute to creating jobs, offering rewarding careers, reducing health and care costs, driving innovation, and of course, the promotion of decent work in the care sector. Yet, while the resolution is a step in the right direction, we also need to fully acknowledge that it doesn't include the adequate resources, which we firmly believe is critical within the 5R framework. And as employers, we underscore the need for resources through financial support mechanisms to be able to implement the framework. I would also wish to stress that the care economy is significant in sustaining economies and societies and bringing them together. And through supporting human development and economic growth and government investment in care infrastructure is essential. And this is to ensure that everybody in the community, especially those in need of child and elder care, can benefit and enjoy all the benefits that can be offered to them. This will certainly lead to increased productivity and definitely improve the overall well-being of those involved in the care economy, from service providers all the way to care receivers. Care investments are strategic opportunities for demographic planning, infrastructure, technology integration, talent flow, and access to social protection systems through the formal economy. However, significant gaps hinder the realization of a resilient and well-functioning care economy, which still needs addressing while also representing an opportunity to move forward. Finally, we're facing a growing global shortage of care workers. As I noted earlier, by 2030, we're expecting a shortage of 4.5 million nurses and 10 million health workers. This shortfall impacts not only the care sector, but also the broader workforce of the society as a whole and everybody involved in the care system. And the private sector is and will continue to implement and boost the provision of care services to individual families and public sectors. But we must focus on developing of the skills of care workers. And this is not just for the benefit of the private sector, this is to enhance human capabilities, human knowledge, human productivity for their individual purposes, for their individual gains. And this includes creating career pathways, career development. And this is, I believe, if we have the right career development path, it will definitely encourage more to join this sector. And through hopefully providing quality care and investing in upskilling and reskilling, we can enable job seekers to gain viable employment while empowering workers to pursue careers in career work. We welcome the emphasis of the ILC resolution on efforts to promote active labor market policies, education, and training. And we stress the need to have vigorous apprenticeship schemes gearing to the care economy as a viable professional path, especially in the areas where youth unemployment and long-term unemployment are seen as major challenges. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear Sonia, also for highlighting some of the characteristics of the care sector, in particular the gender-based segregation of the care sector and the potentials of the care sector to create jobs, accompanied though with a shortage of skills and the need to invest in the care sector. I would like to also hear from Lily Chang from the International Trade Union Confederation. Hi, Lily. Thank you for joining.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for putting on this important event, and thank you for this question. The world is still reeling from the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, and so the resolution on decent work in the care economy is of great significance for the global trade union movement and the workers that we represent, in particular, women workers who, as a resolution recognizes, perform the majority of both paid and unpaid care work. In the middle of a global context of polycrisis, as well as ongoing transformations in the world of work, the resolution recognizes a need for urgent action to ensure decent work in the care economy and promote decent work by ensuring access to care for all. It also prescribes the actions that governments and social partners should take as appropriate to their spheres of responsibility, as well as the key guiding principles that we all need to take into account when taking action. Very importantly, all our actions should promote a rights-based approach for care and be grounded in social dialogue and the international labor standards. So we have a big task ahead of us to ensure that ILO tripartite constituents take the urgent actions needed as prescribed by the resolution. And from the workers' perspective, the resolution does address the important challenges in promoting decent work in the care economy. And these include the impacts of the current social organization of care on women and gender equality, the decent work deficits of care workers that were further exacerbated during the COVID-19 pandemic, the severe staff and skill shortages, and the significant gaps that exist in the care economy in relation to access to quality care services, public awareness, policies and legislation, and their implementation, as well as adequate funding. Further, we believe the resolution recognizes key opportunities that exist in promoting decent work in the care economy. As workers, we fought for the recognition of care as a public good. And while there was no tripartite agreement, we did agree that states have the primary responsibility to provide care to fund, regulate, and ensure high standards of quality, safety, and health for care workers and care recipients. And as part of this responsibility, states need to allocate necessary resources and ensure that national care systems are underpinned by robust policy and regulatory frameworks. The recognition of the 5R framework for decent care work is key, as now we have a conceptual framework agreed to by the ILO's tripartite constituents that would ensure and guide our work on care. The agreement to convene a tripartite meeting of experts would be a crucial first step in assessing gaps in the ILO's body of international labor standards in relation to paternity and parental protection and other types of care leave entitlements. And last but not least, we believe this resolution consolidates the leadership role of the ILO as a UN entity within the multilateral system that is best placed to advance the care agenda at the global, regional, and national levels due to its unique tripartite nature, its expertise on the world of work, and its normative power. We all, as tripartite constituents, have a key role to play to continue reinforcing ILO's leadership role.
Thank you very much, Lily, for putting evidence on the need for a rights-based approach when we talk about care, and also the importance of social dialogue in advancing the care economy, the discourse on the care economy, the rights of care workers, and highlighting how, from the perspective of the workers, also this convention addresses some of the key challenges. In particular, you mentioned deficits in decent work. And I think it would be, while we discuss the resolution and we kind of think very much about policies and measures, etc., and the fact that the care economy is such a broad topic and it has many different dimensions, we would like, though, to provide an example of how it really boils down to needs, daily needs, and solutions that are possible. And so we would like to show a video that was produced in Ethiopia with an interview with a beneficiary of a project that the ILO has been implementing, supported by the Norwegian government.
ስራውን ያቋረጥኩበት ምክንያት የበፊቱ ስራ ቦታ ማቆያ የለውም። ስለዚህ ቤት ውስጥ ልጅ መንከባከብ ስላለብኝ ነው ስራውን አቋርጬ ወደ ቤት ቁጭ ያልኩት። ያው ቤት በነበርኩ ሰዓት ብዙ ነገር አለ፣ ብዙ ነገር የሚስተካከል ነገር አለ። የራሴም ይሆናል የምፈልገውን ነገር ፍላጎቴ ላላሟላ እችላለሁ። ምክንያቱም በቤት በተቀመጥኩበት ሰዓት ልጆችን ለመንከባከብ ያው ልጆቼ የፈለጉትን ነገር ላላረግ እችላለሁ። አሁን ላይ በስራ ላይ ባለውበት ሰዓት ደስተኛ ነኝ። ለምን ደስተኛ የሆንኩበት ምክንያት አንደኛ ልጅ አጠገቤ ናት። ያው ድርጅቱ አንደኛ ልምድ ያለው ሰራተኛ አለ። ልምድ ያለው ሰራተኛ ደግሞ ያው ድርጅቱ እንዲጎዳ አይፈልግም። ባለው በመጣ በስራ ዘርፉ ሰርቶ ስራውን በጥራት ያስረክባል። ያው ያለውን የድርጅቱ ኃላፊ ደስተኛ ማድረግ ይችላል። ያን ነገር ዴኬር ባለበት እናቶች አሁን በተለይ ቤት ውስጥ ላሉ እናቶች እንደዚህ ማስታወቂያ ፈልገው የተለጠፈ ማስታወቂያ ፈልገው አይተው እንደዚህ አይነት ቦታ አይነት ጠይቀው ቢሰሩ ደስተኛ ነኝ። እንደኔ ለውጥ አለኝ እኔ እግዚአብሔር ይመስገን። ጥቅም አለው። ለምን ብዙ ሐሳብ ይቀላል፣ ብዙ ጭንቀት ያቀልልናል። በቃ ቢያንስ አንዳንዴ የምንፈልገውን የራሳችንን የሆነ ነገሮችን ማሟላት እንችላለን። ብዙ ቤት ውስጥ የሚያስጨናንቅ ነገር አለ። ያን ነገር እንሸፍናለን። የሚያስፈልገን ነገር ከጎን እናሟላለን፣ ለልጆቻችንም ሆነ ለራሳችን።
And we apologize that interpretation was not possible in French and Spanish, and that there were only subtitles in English, but we hope also the images provided the sense of this story, which is a human story based on the experience of this young woman that was able to return to work because of the provision of childcare in the garment factory where she found a job. And so really trying to stay connected to reality, and also looking at some of the questions that we have seen coming in the chat, in particular the question of Josefina Lim, I believe from the Philippines, really asking how can we collaborate, how can governments, workers and employers collaborate in also looking at formalizing the care economy, the part of the care economy that remains informal, ensuring fair wages and protections for care workers, while also recognizing the essential roles that they play in supporting families and the economy. And so I would like, with this question in mind, to open the second round of questions for our panelists, very much looking at policy recommendations. And asking, so my question to you is, what are the strategies that can be used to implement the resolution at global, national, and workplace level, and that can promote real change in terms of decent work in the care economy? Over to Minister Colin Jordan, please.
Sorry, thank you very much again, Emanuela, and thanks for the question from the Philippines as well. So if I begin at the international level, what can be done? I think the Social Justice Coalition is an important entity that can form a part of the international advocacy. We need to have, at the international level, when we're talking about trade arrangements, when we're talking about multilateral institutions, when we're talking about international tax policy, I think the Social Justice Coalition is a mechanism by which the ILO and all of us as the tripartite members of the ILO can share with other multilateral organizations the need to recognize care work. We use the Social Justice Coalition to speak to matters of gender equality. I think care work can be one of those areas that we address. With respect to raising profiles within countries, Philippines and all other countries in the world, I think a start could be ratifying the ILO conventions, recognizing the normative framework. There are some conventions, Convention 190, which speaks to violence and harassment, and particularly gender-based violence and harassment, or I should say particularly including gender-based violence and harassment. There's also Convention 189, domestic workers. That is a convention that could be ratified. And when I speak to ratifying conventions, I'm speaking to not just the technical part of it, lodging the instruments, but doing it in a way that residents, our populations, people within our countries recognize that we are taking these matters very, very seriously. There's the nursing convention. I don't remember exactly the number, 145 maybe. But there are some conventions, there are some gaps, but there are some existing conventions that can be ratified and that governments and social partners can use to sensitize populations and to allow persons who live within our countries to recognize the importance of these areas. I think the ILO can also continue to include care economy programs in decent work country programs. I think that is important. Any decent work country programs must include care and matters related to the care economy, because almost every country around the globe has challenges with respect to either aging populations or the neglect of women with respect to their participation in the labor market. And a lot of that neglect of participation is because there is this disproportionate burden of care work, particularly uncared care work within our countries. I think I'm going to introduce a little something here with respect to the disproportionate burden on women. In the paid care work area, we are also seeing, as far as I'm concerned, a disproportionate focus on women as well. And I believe that if society is to develop in a balanced way, nursing, teaching, those two large sectors in particular, there needs to be greater gender equality. I think if our societies are to develop properly, then both paid and unpaid care work have to be balanced at the gender level. And so those are things that will help in terms of sensitization, because in a kind of patriarchal world, when we start to focus on men, more men being involved in paid care work as well, then we start to raise the profile. You know, men are not reserved STEM occupations, but care occupations should also be a focus for men. Migrant labor protocols, I think countries need to have those in place, and they have to focus a lot on care, because there are lots of people who travel because of care. My own country, Barbados, we have had nurses from the Philippines to assist us in our care work in that area, the area of nursing. And there needs to be those protocols that make sure that migrant workers in the care economy, and we know there will be mainly women, they need to be protected, and they need to be protected at the national level. And so all these things help to raise the profile and get governments really involved in matters related to the care economy. Governments also have to either continue to provide, or to provide, if there are no, the affordable and accessible early childhood education that allows women to re-enter the labor market. And so I'll just stop at that point, but I think these are some of the areas, some of the strategies that can be used to address the implementation of the resolution, but also specifically dealing with the question from the Philippines. Having governments both demonstrate the importance of the care economy, but sensitize populations to the fact that it is important, it is significant, it is valuable, and that government leads from the front with respect to making sure that the care economy is recognized for the value that it provides to national development.
Thank you so much, Minister Jordan, for bringing also into this conversation the dimension of domestic work and domestic workers, and Convention 189 in particular, but also the migration, the dimension of migration in the chain of the care economy. And concluding by saying the importance of valuing all this work. And in fact, there is one question from Nepal, from Pratima, that very much refers to the 5 R's framework, recognize, reduce, redistribute unpaid care work, and reward and represent care workers. And the question is, how can we fully implement this framework? And so while I kindly ask Sonia to tell us again, you know, back to the initial question, what are the strategies to be used to implement the resolution, if you can keep this in mind as well. And I will ask the same to Lily. Over to you, Sonia.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thank you to the amazing questions that are coming through. Well, from an employer's viewpoint, it's about building partnerships, about building coalitions, and including the pooling of resources and expertise. And as I previously noted, You know, the 5R structure is impressive, but when you don't have resources to activate the 5R structure, then you have a problem. And this is where it's critically needed, and it's mainly needed to advance a number of objectives. And I would like to highlight 3 elements or 3 objectives that need to be focused on using the structure that was related to. Number 1, let's focus on the vital role of social dialogue and how it is shaping the future of care economy. And a key aspect of the ILO's 5R framework is fostering meaningful conversations between governments, employers, and workers. Now, this dialogue is crucial for creating and implementing policies that balance the need of public and private care enterprises and those of the workforce. And this dialogue, including workplace cooperation, should develop strategies jointly that basically enable care businesses to thrive while supporting decent work. So in doing so, what the office should do is continue building the technical capabilities of tripartite constituents in relative areas of care, such as social protection, gender equality, sustainable enterprises, tackling informality, public-private partnerships, labor migration, employment, and macroeconomic policies. All these are pinned by data collection and research. Secondly, let's look at investment and partnership. We agreed that investing in the care economy isn't just beneficial, it's beyond essential, absolutely essential. It leads to better quality care, it leads to better decent work, health, and well-being. And for this reason, we advocate for a robust public investment and stronger public-private partnership. The public sector can be the main regulators regulating the private sector so that everybody's comfortable and nobody feels that anybody's not, focused on the right path or reaching the right objective. And the public sector's role as a regulator would be more dynamic, more efficient than being an executor. But bringing in the private sector to be the executor jointly with the shadow of the public sector would enhance and would increase the pace in which things are done. So public-private partnerships will effectively leverage private sector expertise and resources, leading to innovative and efficient care solutions. And examples include governments collaborating with the private sector to construct new hospitals or renovate facilities or expand healthcare centers and transition to formalization, like, for example, the Plux Belgium. In Bahrain, the private sector totally contributed to the renovation of the children's cancer care unit, and it was 100% funded by the private sector, a group of private sector, but it was regulated by the public sector, and believe it or not, the whole work, an entire ward of 20 rooms was concluded in a matter of 2 months. And that shows you the speed of and efficiency of how things can be done. Partnerships between healthcare providers and technology companies have enhanced telemedicine, electronic health records, and data analytics. An example of this is Future Lab Japan. All these collaborations are essential for meeting and growing, meeting the growing demand for care services. And a thriving care economy has positive multiplier effects. So while failure to invest in this sector jeopardizes the growth of entire economic communities, advancing decent work in the care economy requires an enabling environment for sustainable enterprises, and these enterprises should include MSMEs, and they need to support to respond to much needed supply of care. Now, going to MSME, and then being the backbone of the care economy. These smaller enterprises are enterprises that provide vital care services, providing essential services and employment opportunities while fostering community engagement and innovation. Now, unlike the larger care institutions, these service providers frequently offer more accessible and personalized and tailor-structured, services to local needs and generate employment opportunities. My mother needed support at home, and we had to approach a private sector company to provide for us the nurse that would meet her requirements instead of relying on the support that we would get from a public hospital. And it was unbelievable, the efficiency, the quality of care, the attention, the affection, the emotions that were involved. And we could see that very quickly, that it was the best decision that we made. Small enterprises, but also entrepreneurs face challenges because they don't have the right resources, they don't have the right technical support, they don't have the right information or the networking opportunities. And to improve their services and expand their operations, they need support in these sectors. And that's why we must strengthen government support through capacity building initiatives and ensuring that we focus on entrepreneurial skills development and target microfinance programs that can not drain these small organizations, but help them grow and further support the community and the society. It is also critical to ensure that these businesses can easily transition from informality to formal operations, while simplified administrative systems and procedures. Addressing the gaps in the care economy requires a comprehensive and collaborative approach to promote gender equality, decent care, and inclusive and sustainable development for all. And we firmly believe this can happen by putting our hands together with the entire community, all the constituents to meet hopefully all these goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia, and also thank you for emphasizing the role of social dialogue as a key tool in creating a resilient care economy. I would like to hear from Lily as well on the same question. Over to you, Lily.
Thank you so much. So as a first step, we really need to ensure that the resolution and its content, and particularly its significance, as we discussed earlier, is well known by governments, employers, and workers at the national level. As trade unions, we will be using this resolution as an entry point to engage in social dialogue with governments and employers on how to build a robust and resilient care economy at the national level. And the common understanding on the care economy that we've agreed to in the resolution is extremely helpful if we're to devise coherent and integrated strategies to achieve decent work in the care economy. It is equally important for all other global, regional, or national actors in the care economy to be made aware of the resolution as well. And I'm talking about other UN entities, civil society organizations, and organizations representing groups of care recipients. Trade unions have been very vocal about the significance of this resolution in different global, regional, and national fora that we've been part of in the last couple of months following the adoption of the resolution, including the G20, G7, Global Alliance for Care, UN General Assembly, and UN Women Beijing +30 regional reviews, as well as part of the ITUC's own campaign, #4Democracy, which aims to advance democracy in the world of work, in society, and in the multilateral system. As agreed to in the resolution, we all need to pay special attention to workers in the care economy who are most at risk of insufficient or inadequate protection and vulnerable to exploitation and abuse, such as domestic workers, migrant workers, or community health and care workers. And as trade unions, we will enhance our efforts to ensure that these workers can effectively access and exercise their rights to join a union and bargain collectively as the most effective way to achieve decent work. And we will ensure that dialogue and solidarity is strengthened at global, regional, and national levels amongst all care workers, from nurses, early childhood and education workers, aged care workers, to domestic workers, community health and care workers, and all those care workers that are trapped in the informal economy. It is this dialogue that gave us the International Day for Care and Support, initiated back in 2019 as the Global Day of Action for Care by trade unions, including the ITUC, Public Services International, Uni Global Union, Education International, and the International Domestic Workers Federation. So without this important work, we wouldn't be here today. We already have successful practices at the national level that demonstrate some of the key guiding principles and actions that are needed to advance decent work in the care economy as agreed to in the resolution. And we have agreed that decent work for care workers is intrinsically linked to ensuring quality care services and therefore promoting the human rights, well-being, and agency of care recipients as well. Due to the nature of care work, a fundamental human activity, there have always been strong connections between care workers and care recipients. And so we already have many examples of trade union-led initiatives in the care sector that ensure that the voices of both care workers and care recipients are heard in campaigns, in advocacy, social dialogue, and collective bargaining. And then I'd like to conclude with a specific example that highlights the importance of the 5R framework, in particular, the 4th and 5th Rs concerning reward and representation. So unions in Australia won an important pay increase in the aged care sector and recognition for a profession that has long been undervalued by Australia's highest authorities. In March of 2024, the Fair Work Commission, which is Australia's workplace relations tribunal, made a landmark decision for assistance in nursing and other aged care workers. They acknowledged that all the jobs in the sector were undervalued, and so the commission ordered basic pay raises of up to 28.5%. This decision is not just a victory for the unions that brought the case before the Fair Work Commission, namely the Health Services Union and the Australian Nursing and Midwifery Federation, but more importantly, for the many employees in this predominantly female sector. And as the Health Services Union said, the HSU work value case was a watershed moment for the aged care sector. This was more than just a pay raise. It was about recognizing the invaluable contribution of aged care workers who have long been the unsung heroes of our nation.
Thank you very much, Lily. I think it was very interesting how you reminded us all of the immense work that the labor movement has done to bring to the attention the decent work in the care economy. And this resolution is very much a result of that work as well. It is now time to open the floor for questions. There is one interesting question that is very dear to me, actually, and it comes from Maritza. And it is the link between unpaid care work and paid care work and climate action, climate change and climate action. And in the keynote speech of Manuela, she already mentioned the link between climate change and increasing unpaid care work in many parts of the world, in particular for indigenous communities and those communities that are very much, that live very close to the land, but also in terms of paid care work, as with climate change, there is often an increase in need of care. And so I would like to ask the panelists, but I also invite Manuela and Shukti, who's here with us, and she will be closing the webinar. For your views, the resolution is actually the first document that has agreed language on the link, the connection between unpaid care work and just transition. So I'll leave the floor to the Minister, Colin Jordan, and just for some quick remarks on this.
I can think of one example where the climate crisis has started to impact in Barbados teachers, but this is on the paid care work area. Teachers in classrooms, the heat that they have to endure, there and the children it's getting to the point now where the whole matter of cooling has to come into play. That has significant implications because there is a cost to that. And there are lots of schools and lots of classrooms. We can see it as well with respect to, or we're beginning to see it with respect to illnesses, increasing levels of illness as a result for us in the Caribbean and in Barbados as well, with respect to heat. And that is a challenge. I mean, there are others with respect to the impact on economic activity, but I focus just on the health implications, and to say that it is really, we see that climate is really cross-cutting, so that even as we speak to the care economy, climate is a matter that has to be part of it. And when we're talking about justice in the transition, it has to include all of these things. It has to make sure that there is fairness and that those who are called on to endure, because that is what it turns out to be, endure these significant challenges, are really protected and cared for.
Thank you very much for sharing this very concrete example of the intersection between climate change and the care economy, as well as health and the budget of countries. Let's listen to Sonia.
Thank you so much. I come from a region where the temperature reaches 50 degrees and we're still okay. We're managing. But why we're managing? It's because the infrastructure that the public and private sector jointly have put into place. All the schools have always been air conditioned. I can't remember backwards. I think maybe in the early 60s we had some of the schools that were not, but from the 70s, not a single school has been established or a single hospital without air conditioning. And the government also uses not only air conditioning, but also backup generator systems as part of the infrastructure that should there be a power problem due to heat or anything, the backup generator automatically comes on board. When it comes to the construction sector, for example, there is a big effect financially on the private companies. It's because by law, the moment we go into July, from June actually, June, July, and August, the workers have to stop working from 11:30 in the morning all the way to about 5 o'clock in the evening, and then any work resumed would be considered as overtime as well. This is over and above the basic pay that is paid. So this does impose major costs on large construction companies, but at the same time, this also is a must because the welfare of our employees that today are working to provide infrastructure, to provide schools, to provide hospitals is also taken into perspective. And there are these laws that are very firm, and any organization, private sector organization not abiding by it is penalized immediately to the level that in some cases the commercial registration is revoked, regardless of how big the organization is. So, and we have the Labor Market Authority that has a qualified and amazing number of factors that do site visits and make sure and check that all workers in the care sector and every sectors are taken care of, and all the private sectors are abiding by law and ensuring that climate factor is not affecting them. And in addition to, of course, I'm going to even add to that, today there is even a regulation that when you come to parking of cars, you need to have shades for your employees, because you don't want that employee to go into a car that's overheated and would cause that person stress. And then these are the measures that today the government in the region is taking into perspective to ensure that climate does not jeopardize or affect the health and well-being of the employee. But in addition to that, I think other than the climate, what is more important that today everybody is considering, the public, private, and workers, unions, is the mental health of the employees or the workers in the care economy, and how we can also support them, and how can we be with them and ensure that they have the right support system in every process and every channel of their work, and have all the support.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you very much, Sonia, for highlighting different examples from your part of the world. And I would like to listen to Lily. We're getting close to the end of the workshop, of this webinar. And there is a question, Lily, that maybe you can also take into consideration, which is how can social protection coverage of care workers reduce the informality issue in the care economy? And this question comes from Bangladesh.
Okay, so I'll just start with the other question that we were talking about earlier. So in Canada, we have extreme weather effects as well. And just this last summer, we had, on parts of our country, forest fires that completely wiped out entire towns and historic sites. We also had extreme flooding, which which filled up many people's basement apartments and took out power generators as well. And so when we have these kinds of events that are related to climate change, then it affects not only the informal or not only the paid, but also the unpaid care work sectors. We have, the daycares and schools that have to shut down and not operate. We have, or completely wiped out because of fires. And we also have people who have to take time off of work from their own work to help transport other family members out of particular nursing homes or long-term care homes, because to get them out of the location of danger. So I think climate change is very significant impact in the care economy, both paid and unpaid.
Thank you so much.
The other question that was related to how do we protect workers in the informal economy, I think it was. So I think we have to just make sure that we extend protections to those workers, because without them, then we have to have them recognized in the same way as workers in the formal economy, so that all the same labor protections are extended to them as well. And it doesn't matter whether or not you are in the formal economy or informal economy, that all the health and safety protections, all the pay and wage protections, human rights protections, all of those should be extended to you as well. So I think this is something that we need to do, continue to do through social dialogue. And from a trade union perspective, it would be to try to organize these workers and have them recognized as workers like the other workers as well.
Thank you very much, Lily, and thank you very much to the panel. I would like to ask Manuela to give us a couple of her sound bites in terms of what this conversation is going to lead us, before asking Sukti then to provide us with some closing remarks.
Yes, well, I just wanted to jump in with regard to the issue of the heat stress. I mean, it is really becoming an emergency, a real emergency. And it is becoming has become an occupational hazard for many economic activities, indoor and outdoor activities, with very serious implications for the care economy, as it has already been highlighted. I'm not going to refer to the many different measures that countries around the world are adopting in this area, but just would like to take the opportunity to again underscore the importance of social dialogue. I think that both Sonia and Lily have highlighted that on several occasions, especially to deal with occupational safety and health also in the care sectors. This is another very important dimension of advancing decent work in the care economy, which needs to be fully integrated and taken into account in our efforts towards reaching that objective.
Thank you so much, Manuela. And it's time to get to the end. So I would really like to welcome Mrs. Sukti Dasgupta, the Director of Conditions of Work and Equality Department at the ILO, for her closing remarks.
Thank you, Manuela, Your Excellencies, distinguished participants. As we draw this interesting discussion to an end, I would like to thank on behalf of the ILO all our distinguished speakers, Minister Jordan, Ms. Janahi, Ms. Chang, for your time and for your valuable insights, which contributed to a really rich discussion, and also those who from the audience asked questions which furthered the conversation. And thanks also to DG Hangbo for his opening remarks, and to ADG Manuela for your excellent keynote address, which set the tone. And the discussion today once again affirmed the collective commitment towards this resolution that was adopted in June of this year. And I won't attempt to summarize the discussion because it was too rich and too broad, because the care economy itself is a broad concept. But I would like to reiterate a few points that were made. That the resolution, following the first ever general discussion on decent work and the care economy amongst our tripartite constituents, governments, workers, and employers, together resulted in a way forward for decent work in the care economy and to ensure decent work for all by making care accessible to all those who need care. And that it is a historic resolution because it provided for the first time a common understanding amongst the tripartite partners on the care economy. And it also brings forth a set of actions. And it is now our collective responsibility to implement the resolution. Also, it has been noted today, the resolution emphasized that care work, paid and unpaid, is essential to all other work. I believe all of you mentioned it. And it is the foundation for healthy and productive workforces and has the potential to create many jobs and contributes to economic and social development, to gender equality, and to equality in societies and in economies. And the resolution and the discussion today also emphasize that, as you know, on the 80th anniversary of the Declaration of Philadelphia, that labor in the care economy is not a commodity, and that quality care services is the basis, will be there only if there is decent work for care workers, there is a respect for fundamental principles and rights at work, and that there is social dialogue. Again, a point that all of you emphasized. And it underlined that addressing the care economy recognizes that we address the unequal distribution of unpaid care work at home, and that we value care work, both paid and unpaid, and its contribution to economies in a meaningful way. And this also requires taking into consideration care leave policies and the needs of workers with family responsibilities, as we saw in the video that was also played. Furthermore, that we need to address gender stereotypes in the care economy. And finally, that governments, workers, employers all have a very critical role to play in implementing the 5R framework for decent work that was agreed upon, including by promoting investment in the care economy to ensure that the resources are there, including to address those areas which relate to the care economy and the transformative future of work that is happening, whether it is in relation to demographic shifts, climate change, or technological change. Thank you once again for your insights, your commitment, your collaboration. And from the ILO side, we remain firmly committed to implementing the resolution on decent work and the care economy. And there will be a discussion in the governing body very soon on the comprehensive and the ambitious plan of action that the office has put forward in this regard. And as we move forward, let us all carry the knowledge and the perspectives that we have shared here today in our respective spheres of influence It is a subject that is extremely important in itself, but it's also a subject that is at the heart of the discussion of gender equality, where a disproportionate share of women are engaged. And by the way, as Manuela started off when she did her keynote address, please stay tuned on the 29th of October when the ILO will release the new global estimates on women and men who are outside the labor force due to care responsibilities. So thanks once again to all the speakers, to the audience, and for all those of you who asked questions for joining us today to celebrate a little bit in advance the second International Day of Care and Support. Thank you all.
Thank you very much to all of you. If there is still a moment, I would like to ask our dear panelists to put on your cameras to thank you and to truly thank you for your time and your dedication, and also to thank the interpreters that have made this dialogue possible in different languages, and to all of you that have contributed to this discussion, which for us remains an open discussion, and that is part of the work that many of us in the ILO are very proud to continue. So thank you very much to all of you, and wish you a very good day.